Hi, everybody. It's Help Me Be Me. This is Sarah Mae Bates, and today I'm talking about unconscious loops and mostly the ones that I would say are based on routine. We get really trapped in them and they take over long chapters of our life, and they might be kind of like dominant in if you're a person like me and you do a lot of, I don't know, multitasking, high functioning, you do a lot of shit. So if you are a person who notices that you kind of fall into unconscious rhythms, that is what this episode is about. It's I guess the main goal is conscious embodiment, really being driven by your best interests versus the stuff that you are afraid of or the stuff you're not looking at and really weighing um, if it makes you happy. I think when you become a person that is really duty driven and high functioning, it almost requires that you dive in and hold your breath and just go through it and like act like a motor. And I don't know that we actually tune in and ask, is this really what I want? Is this really going to make the best life for me? Is it really going to make me the most happy? And I don't think we are open to what makes us the most happy, partly because it's inconvenient, if that makes sense. Like there's some part of us that kind of thinks if I can just keep going and not think, I can still keep up this game. I can still get through, I can still power through and not feel it. And I can, keep the engine running if I don't pause and reflect on if it's working or not. So I think really what this is about um, tuning in, reflecting, having that opportunity at all of self inquiry, and then also looking at how we go into areas that maybe we're resistant to because we're afraid. Not necessarily afraid, meaning like we're consciously fearful, but afraid in that we don't want to let go of the way things are, or we don't want to look like dismantle something, a system that's working. Or afraid meaning we're we're uncomfortable with the uncertainty of inquiry. Like, what if that means that I actually have to change? What if that means I have to go through a bigger life questioning process? The other thing I wanted to bring up is if you are a person who has grown up with controller tendencies, like you have been forced to kind of manage other people in your life, one thing that happens to you as an adult is you perceive patterns in your life as fixed. So it almost embedded in your body is this expectation of other people's rhythms. And so you will perceive those rhythms in your relationships, in your interpersonal situations, and they will be helpful for you because you will be able to anticipate things. However, you will also perceive those things as fixed. And the reason I want to emphasize that is it prevents you from recognizing that there is a potential for change at all times. So what I'm describing is you might have kind of a cadence, a rhythm of interactions with your partner or with your parents or with your whoever it is, and your brain assumes those are continuous. Your brain assumes that that is always the way things will be. So I'm planting that seed in your mind because truly they are not fixed. And we are kind of duped. This is like the other half of the coin, the shadow side of our strength, our ability to kind of read people and see things from a different, more educated or mature vantage point. See where that seed takes you. So, part of what inspired this episode was I have a I feel like I have a lot of loops or a lot of long-term routines that take over, and I can't really see my way out of them. And it's almost like I'm, one of those cartoons that's like legs are running really fast. And I'm like, where are the brakes? How do I stop this thing? So I wanted to invite you to look at possible areas in your life where you are being driven by an old pattern, maybe where something is unconscious that's totally not totally visible to you. Um, and I think sometimes we grow out of these patterns when we witness um, ourselves getting exhausted at our own hand, or we feel like unfulfilled by what that motor is doing. So I'm going to invite you to look at, what is your life path set up for you? And then also look at this kind of what I'm calling the loop of drive. So we, I think, as people who have a lot of drive or have a lot of empowerment, we also do that by kind of, there's a shadow side of it. We also do it by hooking ourselves, so to speak, or getting ourselves high on something about that routine. Like it's almost like a drug in that it motivates us to pursue this like very exhausting pattern. And we deliberately kind of bait ourselves into it, like, so I'm really inviting you to see it for what it is. So the need to sustain a high is like kind of a need to blind ourselves, to trick ourselves into continuing on the relentlessness of the loop. Um, so it's like a two-sided coin. It's like, yes, it's making you very successful. It's making you very, um, you're so good at checking all the boxes, but also, do you really want all of that truly? Is it working? Even though you're making it work, is it working? So this is really like going into that question as a means to change, invite the possibility of change, to loosen that routine a little bit, to loosen that muscle flex a little bit. Um, and just for context, like the best window of time to break out of something that you feel completely like propulsed or like driven so blindly toward, the best time to break out of it is at the end of the high, at the crash, at the end of whatever, let's say it's like a nonstop 6 months of like going, being an octopus, going on all cylinders, doing all the things, making, winning on all these fronts. It's like right after that crash when you're like, huh, am I happy? Is it working? Is this going to end? That's the window of time when we can intervene and possibly change the future and possibly take stock and alter where we are. And this is not about dismantling what's working. It's not all bad. There are really good things that come out of being this machine. We are doing a lot of practical things that need to be done. And there are systems that we set up for ourselves that keep us stable, they keep us safe, they keep us taking care of ourselves sometimes, or they help us take care of others, or make sure we're meeting all of our needs. A lot of them are really interwoven with boundaries. But what I'm really becoming curious about, what I'm inviting curiosity around, is that quality of chasing a high, of trying deliberately to get ourselves to go into a blindness. Um, and what that blindness enables in us is us sustaining something that isn't necessarily good for us or treating ourselves very well. There's like that familiarity with that feeling of the high. And and that's why we kind of are attracted to it and we kind of resume it. So what do I mean by a high? I mean like a feeling of being incredibly effective, of being incredibly relied on, of being incredibly successful and powerful. Power, like describing kind of masculine energies, like doing all the things, having all the control, being who everybody relies on, um, being respected and esteemed in like professional spheres and personal spheres, making everybody happy, making so much money, making status of some sort, doing so many things, being so effective, very like action, power, authority based things, familiar things. And when we go into those kind of high loops of getting ourselves high, we we have an kind of a deeper wisdom that like the body kind of knows the truth. And oftentimes you'll get this like what I'll describe as like a twinkling or a whisper or like a really quiet voice that questions you in those decisions, that chimes in like, do you really need to do that? Or I don't really want that. Are we going to do more? Like it's like this kind of like quiet little voice that's um, deeper. There's your intuition is very strong, and your intuition, there's like a deeper knowing, a deeper instinct. Um, it's kind of associated with magic and mystery and curiosity and play. I think we all have a universal psychic energy that knows more than our conscious mind and knows more deeply, more truly what you want. And so that little twinkling, whatever it is, that whisper, will nudge you to do things that might not feel like they have a direct reason in the moment. So they might nudge you to say, reach out to this person, go to this event, buy this book, book this kind of trip. Or sometimes it'll tell you things that you don't understand, but you can kind of trust them. Like, for example, it might tell you, like, if you're on the fence about something, the little voice will say something like, no, you're going to go. You're going to go to that thing. It'll know better the future. So that's a very magical thing about this intuition is it like is agnostic of time. I just had a recent experience with this. My own intuition, I was like really ambivalent about going to an event because it was late at night and it was very far away. And I just knew when I looked at it that I was not only going to go, but that I was going to come home late. It was like the little voice was like, no, you are going to go and you're also going to be home late. So I just trusted it. It was like a knowing. And that's because I was meant to talk to a specific person at that event about very magical and amazing trajectory altering things. But we all have this insight in us. You have a quiet, wise one inside who is like orchestrating your path, helping to orchestrate your path, and knows the bigger plan for you, and it's nudging you toward that. And we can access it, we can access that inner knowing when we have the spaciousness, the luxury of agency. We have the spaciousness and the consciousness, present mindedness, um, as in the end of our loop. Like after we feel we have crashed, right before it starts up again, you know? The loop could be something totally different for you. It could be instead of work, it could be like booking social events, being on everybody's social calendar, showing up to everybody else's event, being popular. It might ring completely hollow to you. And in the moments of feeling hollow, that's when the opportunity opens up for deeper inquiry. So, the other area I'm going to push you into with this episode is where are you resistant to looking and what could be possibly positive in that area? Like in other words, where are you actually very open-minded but your body is um knows it's going to take energy. Therefore, there's some form of resistance that occurs around it where you're like, I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just not going to go there because I know it's going to open up the need for more energy from me. So it's not technically something you don't want. It's just like it's being mislabeled by your brain currently as something you don't want, but it's actually just something that's going to take some energy to process. So, with that, there's two parts in this episode. This was part one, and this is part two, the tools. I'm going right into tools in this one. Before that, though, just a brief word from our sponsors. Okay, I am starting the tools with a journal reflection. This is for awareness, but also areas you can push yourself to grow. And I mean, grow through just learning where you are currently being overly harsh, um, and or areas where you are being blind. And I think we are overly harsh in areas that pertain to boundaries, like boundaries that we actually arrived at for really, really important reasons in our upbringing. But whenever we have boundaries that we enacted because of a need to self protect, they can also become blocks. Even though we took them on as ways to create safety in our lives and learn how to like protect ourselves and function better, they created order. However, in adult life, when we are high functioning, it actually can become an area where we are just very black and white and we just close off. So they're hard to move past. They're hard to orient our priorities around them because they were put in place and they gave us health. But the more we grow, the stronger we grow, they can now become opportunities to rebalance and create a little bit of gray around them, especially when they're blocking possible happiness and relief and openness and joy and peace. Like, I think a lot of boundaries that we grow can sometimes become areas where we are overly controlling and it's not in our best interests in a lot of situations. So with that, here are my prompts for you for your journaling. First journaling practice. What are the loops for you in your life? Meaning, where do you go into an intense unconscious machine mode in your life or an unconscious autopilot, whatever that is? It's the first prompt. For me, the autopilots are overworking, um, self-medicating as a like a off button after overworking. I have a like pattern of overbooking myself and my time. And I'm like, so right now I'm just asking you to list out whatever they are and just become curious like about these patterns as if they are objects, like objective objects. You're like, oh, interesting. What is this thing that happens? All right, the second prompt. What are you afraid of? Like what spaces? Another way to write into this one is what are you noticing? Where are you noticing rigidity is stopping you from something that might actually help you? I'm just going to answer the question because why not? For me, one of them is letting go of anything that overbooks my time. It's, um, and I think that it's tied to losing control. Even if that loss of control would help me. So as soon as you notice something, so the second half of this prompt is highlight those things, highlight the things that are interesting. And then the second half of it is flip it over. Where does that come from? Where does that, where does that originate? That impulse. The next prompt. Oh, sorry. Second half of that, the flipping over. Now make a note or an invitation for yourself to counteract that impulse in just a non-threatening way. In other words, just loosen it, loosen the grip a touch, and invite that loosening in the next instance you notice it coming up. Like for me, overworking is definitely the other side of the coin of control. And I think as soon as I can notice the impulse itself is like, I need control, how can I actually, in the moment that it's arising, loosen it and allow? It's just a very subtle energy change. It's not like everything in your life will be so different, but it's an intention change and it'll open things up. It creates more balance. That's one of the byproducts. More balance, more harmony, more everybody in your life feeling valuable. All right, next prompt. What do I feel called toward? Another way to say this. What is the magic that is deeper, bigger, that wants more of my energy and focus? And I mean the word magic. There's a different quality to the deeper calling. It's not so superficial. It's not so, masculine energy, power, status based. It's like a deeper, joy based calling. What do I feel called toward? And just jot down your list. For me, it's always based in creativity and then also being able to be present and unfettered by obligations. Okay, that was that set of tools. This is my next tool. It's called flipping regret or like a retraining the default. So we can actually teach ourselves to, it's almost like a daily meditation you practice with your thoughts. Every day, your set of thoughts is like a daily meditation on what the world looks like and how you feel about that world and how you feel about your life. We have to very much be deliberate in how we train those thoughts, just like you're training a puppy. And so I want you to become aware of the default. I think some of us, probably from childhood, but also just poor training, have a habit of really attaching to regret. And a lot of us use regret as like a version of masturbation in that it's like we really get into that martyrdom script. And it's very, very potent for a lot of people. And so we get into a lens of like looking at our life as really based on all the things you did wrong or all the areas you're failing. And so I wanted to invite you to look at your set point right now. Like, what are you defaulting to as far as like your script about your life? And what is your daily meditation? Is it a set of positive thoughts or is it a set of critical thoughts? And notice, first of all, notice. And then, second half of this, as an exercise, this is what I do by default now, which is pretty awesome. Like I don't even have to try, but like I used to have to really try and make myself think this way. Anytime you have a thought of regret or a thought of martyrdom that you're using to like kind of beat yourself with, I want you to ask, what has this thing set up for me perfectly? What is the opportunity inherent in this fill in the blank thing? And really energetically invest in that opportunity, in that narrative, whatever that thing is. What is this really here? What could this possibly set up? And just remember to practice that really deliberately. Focus on that half of the thought. You might have a pattern daily of like complaining, and that is like literally you're choosing to meditate on what's wrong. And so, really, you have to have that deliberate workaround where you train in like, what is this here? What has my life set up perfectly for me through this? What is the real path that's positive? Where is this road possibly leading? Um, and rehearse that consciously. Really, like you've been given a role in a play, and that is your character. Constant practicing of the new thought. All right, the next tool, the awareness skip button. I can tell in the moment when my conscious brain is trying to hit a skip button and it's just trying to turn itself off, or really quickly it wants to blind itself to the truth of what my actions are. And so I want you to ask, or just notice when this is happening for you and ask, am I being me, or am I choosing to blind myself and rationalize without conscious thought? I think this happens in life quite often when we go into a routine that is designed to force us to be productive. We'll be driven towards something based on that routine, and we very much rationalize all things that are involved with that routine. And really, what this tool is I'm just inviting you to notice on a day to day basis when you, in particular, are skipping consciousness. Um, for examples from my own life, um, booking plans out of a sense of obligation, or committing to something that is ego based, um, blind moments of, deliberately hiding information as a means to control, or omitting, I should say. Spending money on things that do not grow my soul, but feel like they are important to other people. I don't know. All of these things are just moments when we think, oh, I should, or it's what's done, or this goes along with this scenario. This is what everybody does. All of those are, though, moments when you might actually think something else on a deeper level is true for you. And so, in these little skip button moments, we are almost reinforcing an identity of I don't care. It's a version of a lie to ourselves. And I, for myself, am really, really trying to become more embodied, more conscious, more consistent in all of who I am. So I'm trying to really dig out these little skip button moments because I think they deplete the baseline of self. It's almost like you don't even notice it, but you just fell into the line of sheep and you're like, wait a minute. Nope, I don't think I actually believe any of these things. It's like a very thick culture helmet just gets slowly put on your head and you don't even really think about it. Um, but also old boundaries are blocks too. So that's that tool. All right, the next tool, sort of related, the hidden narcissist. I think we have all of us who are high functioning, who get a lot of shit done, also have a hidden narcissist where we get, and I don't mean that in you know, sociopath way. I just mean I mean in a metaphorical kind of way. I just had a reading recently where we were talking about these different figures and signs and symbols, and one of them that came up is this concept of um, this kind of like deceptive um, for, sliver of yourself. Where are you going invisible? Where are you being deceptive and also going invisible? And I'm going to guess that that is like an area in your life where you tell yourself, I have to do this. And you kind of go into a controller mode. And usually, I think for me, my controller mode areas are where I have old baggage. And usually what we do is we legitimize the action, whatever it is, based on that old baggage. So this tool is a question more than anything. Where do you manipulate to control and sustain the situation? It's in the sustaining of the power and the control, that's a part of that high that I was talking about earlier, but it's also interwoven with a need to create health and stability and have these strong boundaries. So it's a confusing one. It's a hard one to dissect because it is so it comes from a place that was built in survival. Therefore, a lot of the time the blindness is willful and we almost skip thinking about it because it's like in our brain we've just decided it's justified. And if you identify as a person who is a controller, you likely grew up with a need to make things safe and a need to make sure you were going to be okay. But as an adult and as a kid, it was like necessary and super helpful. As an adult, we can get into patterns without noticing. And a lot of the time, those patterns, they kind of make us feel alienated from ourselves. They deny another part of ourselves, and they don't actually feel true in the moment. So, really, what I'm inviting is for you to notice when this happens, stay awake, and just curious. In those moments, the antidote is really becoming aware of your body. In the moment of whatever, where are you invisible? Where are you hiding? Where are you manipulating? How does the body feel? And what does that tell you? Oftentimes, it's like that little whisper person or that little inner watcher conductor self will be like, what? What just happened? Like, it'll kind of like raise a little question mark and be like, are you sure? You're sure you're going to do that? It knows that it isn't true. It'll often say, your body will say, this isn't sitting right. There's a misalignment here. This isn't true. And so, really, what I'm asking or inviting is allow yourself deeper consideration around where, when that happens for you. With curiosity comes agency and possible evolution. So, just start by bringing air into that situation and not seeing it as, I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just going to avoid it, not think about it. I like to look for any of the burrs that are stuck to my being and go into them. Because if you don't, what happens is you end up evolving in a way that you don't really, it's not pure, if that makes sense. It's not as strong, it's not as potent, which kind of relates to the next tool. This is the Holy Grail. Be the same in all spheres. I think it is something that I didn't used to think of as a good thing to be the same person in all spheres of your life. But now I think it is the best way to be happy and the best way to be powerful, a beam of light, the purest version of yourself, the most successful, the most effective, the most loving. All of it is just to be consistent in who you are, no matter who you are with and where you are. That's how we become the most effective in all the things we choose to do. When we are consistent, we don't have to water down our energy or our power. Um, and I mean, like, not fracturing your identity in those spheres as well. And I'm not saying like put yourself at risk, if you have a certain sphere of your life where you like are not safe to be yourself in that sphere. Like, I'm not saying like fuck safety. I'm saying like for yourself in areas where you're making a choice to hide, what would it look like to be fully yourself in that environment? It would feel so liberating. It would feel, that's my goal for myself, is to be able to be the same exact person wherever I am, whoever I'm with. And really what it's changed is like the volume and fluidity of my voice. It's like, and it's also allowed me to like really see who I am. It's really, it sounds like random and it's arbitrary, but it's very powerful. All right, the next tool, I wanted to put this in because I think it's such a good refresher. Every day, 10 gratitudes, 10 positive actions. And if you could just like put sticky notes on the wall just to remind yourself, even if you want to write them in, that in itself as like a palette reset, a trainer of your brain will make your life dramatically better. And I mean 10 positive actions for other people, not just yourself. Like, positive actions could be, you know, making somebody breakfast. It could be sending a nice text message. They don't have to be like major, really challenging things, but like really consciously thinking of those things to do on a day-to-day basis. I've noticed for myself, I get into a mode of like, a default thought of like, I can't possibly do more. I can't possibly put more effort into fill in the blank because I am so fucking exhausted. I'm so overloaded. It's like but that's a choice. That script is a decision for how the next day will be. And it doesn't have to be true. The other tool I'm just going to throw into this one is if you notice yourself scripting out today or tomorrow, I'm going to be so exhausted. I'm always so exhausted. My day is going to be exhausting. In the moment you have that thought, I want you to actually deliberately flip it over and say, time, I invite you to slow down for me. That's what I do all the time. And also, maybe my day will be easy. Maybe it will be relaxing and slow and easy. Maybe it won't be a rush at all. Maybe it'll be a fun day. Just really in your body, visualize that as being true and like imagine it. Take yourself into tomorrow and just imagine it. When we do these practices, we actually alter what will be because it's co-created. We co-create the future in our minds and our expectations, and it will come to pass. Whatever you are inviting will come to pass. Um, okay, great. The next tool, I'm throwing this in there for somebody in particular, for splitting moments when we get out of when we leave our body. And I think this is kind of related to kind of what the rest of this episode is about. But like when you, if you have a pattern of abandoning self, this is like an old survival mechanism a lot of us have that's kind of wired into our body. Usually when we feel powerless, triggered, unsafe, often what happens is we go to the quick fixes. We go to like the tools that we used growing up that we saw as being really effective. And so, ooh, that had some energy. Whenever things in your environment like react to what you're talking about, I always look at it as a sign of cosmic energy behind it. Um, what was I talking about? Yeah, so we usually go to old tools that are effective and like we we use them because we're really really desperate for them to work. And first off, if you find yourself going to that place, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about moments when you feel insecure. And so your first response is I need attention ASAP. That's one example. Or I feel threatened and powerless, like I'm not respected. So you might go immediately to asserting your authority and making other people bounce that back to you, reflect it back to you. Um, as soon as you notice yourself going into that mode, the very first thing you want to do is just like recognize it, slow it down, recognize it, and then um, I like to take it into my journal and I go through just the process of like reaffirming a promise that I made to myself and the friendship I have with myself, which is basically where is this coming from? What's the underlying fear? What's the underlying motive below this? Usually it's like, I'm afraid, I don't feel good enough, I'm powerless. It's like an old little kid voice will come out. And then the second half of that is you give yourself unconditional love. It's really, really simple. It's not going to change the world in that moment, but it is really what you are teaching yourself over a long period of time consistently, which is you come first. I promise to love you no matter what. That's the answer that yourself is craving. I let go of this fear, this need, this title, this definition, this opinion, whatever it is, and you come first. I love you no matter what. Remember? Remember that's true? Oh, yeah, it is true. That's the like recognition I want you to get to. And you might find that when you do this practice, you get to, is it true though? Do I? And if that's the case for you, that's where I want you to focus. If it's not true yet, don't worry, it will. It will be true. But you have to start by making that promise legitimately. It's the one you will fall back on for the rest of your life. Do you promise to love yourself unconditionally? Yes or no? If you haven't made that promise yet, I want you to start there and like really, truly commit to that. If you have barriers there for whatever reason, it might be an opportunity to go deeper, as with a therapist. But that's the default. I want you to end there. That is the answer to any of these question marks that come up for us energetically. Do I love myself no matter what? Yes. Oh, good. Okay, then fuck everything else. Fuck what you think, fuck what you think. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I have me. That's all you need. Okay. I have some other tools in here that are very unrelated to the rest of the episode, and I wanted to put these in here because I wanted to give you some ways to channel power and confidence. So these are some tools for actualizing moving into a new sphere that is really reflective of like something you want, a change that you might want, like an area you want to invest in more in your life. Okay, the first tool, the squeaky wheel. I think when it comes to claiming something for ourselves in a new territory, you really have to think of yourself, or I'm encouraging you to think of yourself as a squeaky wheel. We need to be relentless, and we need to be almost like water that's running down a hill. It's not going to stop. It's just going to find a new path. Constantly, it's going to find a new path. I think oftentimes when we get into areas that are related to confidence, we have resistance, and we're like, if it's if it's a block in us that comes from like, I don't know if I deserve this thing, I'm not qualified for this thing, I don't feel confident yet in this thing, that fear will make us really, it'll make it really challenging to take actions toward a thing. And as soon as we get any rejection, we'll be like, oh, I don't think I should do that thing anymore. You have to be relentless. The energy required, and I'm just saying default, you are hungry and relentless. And in your energy, I want you to tell other people with your energy, I am I'm destined for this thing. I will not ever stop pursuing this thing. If I recognize that in somebody, that energy of I will never ever stop pursuing this thing, it's like you immediately recognize it. On the other side, you receive it and you're like, "Oh, let me get out of your way." Like it's so easy to see it. It's like a truth that already exists energetically. Like, "Oh no, they're on there. They will be there. I can see it. I can feel it. I can hear it. I can see it. They will be there already." I'm just like standing in the way and I know that they know they're already going to be there. So I'm inviting you to channel that and really practice it and see it in your own body. You are already there. It's ultimate. It's that is the destiny. You know it. And know it in your actions, know it in your tone, know it in your behavior. Okay, you're not gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna go over here now. Okay, I've tried this and like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to this person. It's like relentlessness. That's really the way you signal to others. Oh no, no, that is mine. That is where I am going to be. It's it's like an amazing thing to see it though, because it's a recognition that other people will have. And by other people, I mean whoever is going to be on your path toward the thing you want. Whoever is the barrier, whoever is the gatekeeper, whoever is the person on the path. Um, a second half to this tool, be at home in the space. This is partly from, I forgot the guy who was like a gold medalist swimmer. But I mean, it's all athletes do the same thing, but like whatever the thing is that you want, be in that place. Like if you can, physically go be in the place, but also in your mind's eye, just imagine going there and being at home there and rehearse moving through it in that way. This works for things you want, but also for things you want to invite, like your quality of life. Like, for example, if I'm really dreading a day or a week, I'll mentally imagine myself being calm and spacious in a day. I'll imagine climbing trees and like spending time with trees. And as an aside, you can be friends with trees. I don't know if that resonates, but like befriend a tree, spend some time with a tree as a way to like calm your nervous system. Some of my most fond memories of childhood were days spent in a tree. Like they were like friends. They are friends. But anyway, be in the space, practice like really in your mind's eye, living in that space, going through a whole day in that space. And alternately, if it's not like you're trying to go toward a goal, you can also practice removing culture and removing the pressure of culture. You can visualize yourself being in a different energy. You can visualize yourself being more free, more confident, more relaxed, more joyful. All of these are ways to prompt that thing forth. Okay, cool. And then the next tool, I'm going to use it as a closing as well as a tool because I think it's really, I mean, it applies to all things. It's not just, so this is a tool for in life and also in your future, but also in like, I think just the way you walk through the day today. Never walk into a situation without an awareness of your agenda or your intention. I've done an episode on the power of intentions before, but I think it's a great practice to remind yourself, what is my intention? What is my agenda? What do I want? What am I truly trying to get out of today? What am I truly trying to communicate with my presence? Um, as a resting state, we want to be casually engaged. We want to be relaxed, confident, authoritative, comfortable, really able to access our full volume of our voice. And whenever we are fearful of a situation, wherever we're like tentative, maybe you're having an off day. Some days it's very hard for me to like channel my energy because I'm just either distracted, stressed, compromised energetically, and I can't really like get into that flow, that strength of voice. If that's sounding true, it's really important to just prep, rehearse, get comfortable with the situation. For me, what getting comfortable with the situation means is really playing out a worst case scenario and going through it in my mind's eye and really living through it in my mind's eye and coming out the other side of it and being like, okay, and that's okay, and I'm okay. And then you go through in your mind's eye the best case scenario and you say, like, and maybe that's going to be it, and that's great, and I'm okay with that too. So if you need to, do some research, do some imagining, but outside of that, show up in your life being friendly, genuine, responsive, personable, authentic. And as a reminder to myself, I often think like I don't need to be overly controlling. I don't need to be overly aggressive. I don't need to be, I don't need to add threat to anybody. If I can just show up in a situation um, with a clear intention and be casually engaged, relaxed, confident, authoritative, then I can be present for other people. I can show up as my best self. I can be conscious. I can react to others. I can be open. Can be curious. And if you are in a place in your life where you're really thinking through direction, um, I want you to think about where you are in your storyline. You know, what part of your narrative are you in currently? And when you walk into a situation, you can ask yourself, like, what am I open to receiving? What am I hoping to invite with my conversation? It's almost like prompting or priming yourself for a certain kind of interaction. I think that this is a really powerful one because it's almost like an unconscious or an invisible signal that other people receive. Like if I walk into an event and my goal when I walk into it is I want to have a meaningful conversation where I can learn something new on a spiritual level. That's an example. That will create like really subtle intentional shifts like this will create so much of how the universe guides and helps you. So, what I'm asking you to do, be intentional, be conscious, be open to receiving, but also think about what you want out of each and every life experience you will have. See where that, see what magic that unlocks. I hope this episode is helpful and I hope it enlightens something wonderful for you. And don't forget to smile.